Yes. Niagara Falls Thunder right there. Every period, I think they fired that thing up, and it's like enough already.
Oh, it's unreal. This is a great, great pump-up song, though.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care how old you are. You can't miss with this.
No. Hayes, you were talking about Slavkovsky and the Habs fans giving it to you. I really don't care who turns out or who wins, who loses. But I will say this, if that was the other way around, they would just be like, that guy sucks. Oh, God. When they went to the finals, they were just giving it to Leaf fans.
Right. Exactly. Like
And that's how it should be.
Of course it should be. That's the beauty of, I think, every Canadian market is, whoever you're a fan of up here, you have immense pride for that team. You're very protective of that team. And you usually hate basically every other team. And more often than not, it centers around the team in this city. Like, Toronto stands out above the rest. Like, Strutty was on last hour, and, people in Edmonton just hate Toronto. They just hate Toronto.
No, they don't.
They hate the Maple Leafs. Yes, they do. Let's just be honest.
People outside of Toronto hate Toronto. That's not just Edmonton.
Okay, but
Calgary,
that includes Edmonton.
Because it's what it is the city and the fan base act like there's no other place in the world except for there, and that's what it is. It's
so
obnoxious.
It's not obnoxious.
It's very obnoxious, and you know it.
It's playing to their market, though. Like in Edmonton, why would they talk about something else? They talk, I'm sure, about McDavid all the time. We're saying that in Montreal, they're talking about Slavkovsky. I'm sure all the time. Like it's that's the nature of the beast.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not just I thought it's not just reserved for Edmonton. We've talked about it. It's the Dallas Cowboys. It's the New York Yankees. They're the biggest brand. Mm-hmm. So they travel well, and Leaf fans are loud. They're proud. They're everywhere. So what it is, it's you either love them or you love to hate them.
Absolutely.
It's not just reserved for one market. It's everywhere, and you got to accept that.
I accept
that's what
that.
It is.
I was not believe me, I was not isolating Edmonton. I was just stating fact that Edmonton happens to be one of them.
Well, they're everywhere. Like that's really what it is. But it's you walk in like tonight. Out of the 5,000 fans, I bet you there's 3,500 Leaf fans there.
I wouldn't doubt
maybe
it,
more.
Man.
Right, because I watched that Edmonton game the other night. They were like, they said 75% of the fans were Edmonton fans because guaranteed that's a pretty close flight. And a lot of people from Alberta go down into that area, that Arizona area. You go to Buffalo, half the fans or more Leaf fans travel well because they go Ottawa, same thing. Montreal, a little bit different. I feel like Montreal holds up pretty well. Against Leaf fans like that.
Oh yeah, because of the history there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But that's what sports is. Like it's
As
funny.
It should
like
be.
I never get mad about it. I'd laugh because it's like you sit there and the fan base should be proud. They should have pride in the team that they care about.
Right.
And
of course there's
loud.
bias there. I understand why Habs fans are protective, but it's over the top. Like Slavkovsky, he's playing better. Let's not pretend like he's playing like Maurice Richard. And I'm not suggesting people are saying that in Montreal, but there's such it's nonsense. Have you seen Slavkovsky? Look what he's doing. It's like, he's been good. He's been a lot better. That's awesome. But relax. The rest of the world's talking about playoff teams, and
you know what it turns into though. You say it, and people are like, "Wow, they point at
Toronto guys.
Look at what you did. Look, the Toronto guys said.
I understand.
Look at what you've said about Nick Robertson. You're like, we're not talking about that. It's an opinion on Slavkovsky. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not. It's a slight on the organization. I think the kid has a chance to be a good player. There's nothing wrong with that. There's first overall picks that aren't good players. The Hockey News can't find that Yakupov kid right now.
Bottom line is when you're in a market, whenever you talk about a different market, no one's going to like it anyway.
Agreed.
Well, that's
Toronto
true.
show comments on a Montreal player. Some guy's just going to say, "Shut up, Hayes. I hate your guts anyway."
Exactly. Exactly. And listen, I'm not suggesting I'm batting 1,000. Nobody does, right? Like you have some opinions that are right, some are wrong. again, I didn't say 0% Slavkovsky wouldn't turn into a star.
You're
I said
just
30%.
commenting on what you're watching. The
Right.
guy had a slow start. He seemed to be turning a
and he's
corner
been doing a lot
recently.
better. And they're giving him a lot of opportunity, too. I think that has to be pointed out. Like, he's playing on the top line with their best players and getting a ton of opportunity, and they're trying to prop him up. And to his credit, he's starting to take advantage of that. And again, I get a lot of things wrong, but as I said at the start of the year, I'm like, the Habs are going to be one of the worst teams in the league. And that's exactly what they are. And meanwhile, it's, you people freak out about that, and then, it plays out the way it plays out. Look at Ottawa. There's another example. I wasn't jumping on the Ottawa as a lock to make the playoffs bandwagon. A lot of other people were. A lot of people were. I would say a large majority were believers.
I thought they looked great on paper.
Yeah.
And they still do. But you know what the standings say? That's not. That's
do they,
line.
though? Like, how can they still look good on paper? I don't quite understand that when we've seen
Tim
it.
Stützle's a 90-point player. Last year, he'll be 80-something this year. He just turned 22.
I'm not going through the roster of the Ottawa Senators. The
I
bottom line
like
is they got a bunch of good players there. All of them together, they're not close to making the playoffs, and that's fact.
Yeah, they've got to be better, ultimately. But I think they've got the good framework of a good team there. It's just you got to back it up.
All right. Here's Darren Dreger, a TSN Hockey Insider. Dregs, you want to jump in on this? Like, how do we, with Ottawa in particular, I guess, start there. Like, is it... Because Noodles, you're not alone, and you know them a lot better than a lot of people. You're up close and personal. Right. There's no disputing that. Yet a lot of us look at it. They're like, on paper we like it. Yet when you see it, it's like, should we change our definition of this team?
Well, hold on. First of all, I want to back it up to Montreal because I'm pretty sure if I paraphrase Hayes, you said that Juraj Slavkovsky is the worst first-row overall pick in the history of the NHL. That's
Did I say that? I'll go on the record with that.
Better player than himself. Like Hayes said, he was a better player.
There was a time, Noodles, when I was 7, man. There was no one better in this city. Nobody better. Nobody.
So I'm just jumping in here. So I'm catching the tail end of the Montreal, and I'm catching Ottawa now, and I get it. And I'm more with Noodles. There is a framework there, and Steve Stales, the management of the Ottawa Senators, have promised that they're going to make amends. Like, they want to add 2 or 3 pieces, and they're not declaring that that's going to be between now and March 8th, the trade deadline, but they feel like they've got a real good handle on what the nucleus of that team needs. And it's almost like a buffer, right? So originally it was Chris Tanev, and who knows? Maybe they can still pull that off. They're looking at some veteran forwards who I don't think they're going to be able to get a hold of between now and March 8th. But that's the market that Stales is looking at. He's looking at bringing in leadership character guys who are impactful and can still play. And it seems like they're willing to pay a premium, but they're in a waiting mode like the rest of the NHL. At least the buyers are concerned in trying to, get a toehold in what happens between now and the deadline. So I feel like no different than Montreal, but Ottawa's further ahead on the ladder. Ottawa's got to not just turn the corner. They've done that. They've got to be a playoff team next year. Not contending, not nibbling. They've got to be a playoff team. And I think Montreal has to be close. Otherwise, the market turns.
Dregs, I think what Hayes is saying is, like, when do we go from, like, looking at talented players saying, I love that, as opposed to looking at San Jose saying, I hate that roster, I hate what they do, and yet the results are similar, where it's just like the Ottawa Senators are closer to what San Jose is doing than another team, where it's like you can only fall in love with what's on paper for so long, where year after year, their starts are miserable, and they're generally not close.
No, you're right. You're 100% right, but here's where the problem with salary cap comes into play. And we talk about it every single year. Every manager that's cap team especially will remind us as we go through the draft and close to free agency, you better like the team that you have, because the team that you start the season with is a team that you're essentially married to. And a bottom feeder like the San Jose Sharks is feeling that. Like, you don't think Mike Greer and the San Jose Sharks want to shake things up there? Of course they do. They want to be sellers. They want to move out their whatever assets they have to acquire some draft picks and prospects to get into a better position moving forward. But because of the parity that Commissioner Bettman insisted on many years ago, we're kind of stuck in this quagmire that is now in the next 10 days leading up to the trade deadline. And that's kind of unfortunate because I think like a team like San Jose 100% could be a player. The Ottawa Senators, Steve Staios has tried to be aggressive. He's gone after, Chris Tanev, and he's gone after other pieces. And I'm not going to throw out names that Ottawa may or may not be offering, but it's not garbage. Like, it's legit prospects and draft picks to try and get better than what they are right now. It's just because of the salary cap and because of the parity that exists, teams aren't willing to pull the trigger until they get like a week outside the trade deadline.
Dregs, is there a team that you circle right now and say maybe they're the most sought-after team, that maybe the most language about? Is it San Jose? Is it Calgary? Is it, name another team that's is it Ottawa? Who's the team that most managers are saying they're kind of either holding up the process or they've got the guys that are most coveted?
Yeah, most coveted, Noodles, would be Calgary, right? I mean, we keep waiting on the conversations that Craig Conroy is having on Noah Hannafin, that Pat Brisson, who represents Noah Hannafin, they continue to have. And as of an hour ago, that's where we're at. Conversations are ongoing. So to say there's something close, well, I mean, maybe an hour from now there's something close, but right now there isn't. And I would apply that to Jacob Markstrom, who's got the no-move clause, and Chris Tanev, I've been told, is probably closer to a deadline deal. But Calgary has the most coveted assets, I would say. But, it's all depending on how the market turns here a little bit. I keep seeing Pavel Buchnevich's name, in the top 10 of trade bait boards. And I get that based on his contract. He's a pretty important piece of the St. Louis Blues. Do I think he's going to be traded? I do. Because Army is a guy that isn't afraid to pull the trigger, as an example, even though, his team is right there on the cusp of locking down a playoff spot. He's a GM who has a read on his team, and if he thinks that he doesn't have it or he can get more from making that trade, he's going to make that trade. So there are lots of those kind of fringe teams, Noodles, that we're looking at. But when you look at the assets that kind of drive the market, I think Calgary is right at the top of the spot.
So, again, not trying to beat a dead horse here, but with Ottawa, why would they be trying to acquire players like a guy like Chris Tanev? What would the reasoning be behind that? He's 34 and a UFA at the end of the year. Their season's done. Like, what is the reasoning behind them even kicking tires on him?
Well, only, Brian, if you're going to extend Chris Tanev, right? Otherwise, you're right. It makes no sense. And I've, always been kind of pushing back at the idea because if I'm Chris Tanev, I want to chase the Stanley Cup. So if I'm getting traded, I want to be traded twice.
Right.
Or I don't have to move twice.
Does he have a say in that? He has a no move and all that nonsense, Drakes?
Well, I don't think he has a no move, but most definitely he has a say. And I'm not sure. I don't have his contract in front of me. He would probably have a no trade or a limited no trade, something along those lines. But he's such a respected part of the Calgary Flames that Craig Conroy is going to do what's right by Chris Tanev. And look, there's a lot of miles on that chassis, and we know he's a good player, and we know he would fit on a lot of clubs. Ottawa just looks at him as a high-character player who's got a number of years. You guys put the number on how many you think he has left, and they're not afraid of whatever that contract extension is. And I think Ottawa believes they'd probably pay him more in money and in term than what he might get on the open market. So that's probably their hook, because Staios and company think they need 2 or 3 high-character guys to really make that push that Noodles was talking about earlier. And if he's a part of that, like they've gone after some big names. I know they called on Boone Jenner, and I think John Davidson basically came out when they fired Yarmo to say, Boone doesn't want to go anywhere, we don't want to trade him. So, okay, maybe that's enough of that. I heard Ottawa called on Braden Shen out of St. Louis. I mean, that's not going to happen, I wouldn't think, with St. Louis being in it. But I guess what I'm saying is I'm qualifying the type of character individual that Staios is specifically looking for to bring into that team to help bolster Brady and the younger leadership that they have in Ottawa so that they hit the ice at training camp and they're ready to roll.
Darren, Dubis and Pitt, I think Noodle said at the beginning of the show, he mentioned the word, we need to get younger. Is that like the first kind of catchphrase that signals he's going to start putting some dynamite to that operation, or what do you make of that?
Yeah, yes, but how do you do that, right? Because automatically when you look at the foundation of the Pittsburgh Penguins, what do you see? Hall of Fame guys, right? You see Sidney Crosby, you see Evgeny Malkin, Letang certainly, I guess, deserves to be in that conversation. But so how do you do it exactly? And I've always pushed back, and I understand the contract of Jake Gensel. Do I think that Kyle Dubis is bluffing when his name is out there? No, I don't. But how does that pass the sniff test of
why would
Sid
Gensel want to stay there anyway, Dregs? Like, Sid's got a couple years left. It's like, what does he want to be there in 8 years for, or whatever the hell? Like, why would Gensel want to stay?
Yeah, I mean, and maybe that's what it boils down to, right? Like, if he doesn't want to stay, and look, and we're not indicting this guy. He deserves his opportunity to win. Crosby and Malkin and Letang won Stanley Cups, right? They've been there. And Gensel has the opportunity, and maybe that's why. Like, I remember talking about this early in the year, and I said, well, Dubis is going to have to go through Sydney to trade Jake Gensel, and I believe that to be true. Not that, I'm not being political and saying that Crosby has sign off on trades. He doesn't. I'm just saying that when you've got, a Hall of Fame staff like they have on the ice in Pittsburgh, you at least want to be respectful. But I think Sid would be respectful of Jake Gensel, maybe others, to say, bud, we're not going to win it anytime soon here, and I'll be done before you win it again. It's up to you. That to me is plausible, and that's probably why we continue to talk about Jake Gensel and why a contract hasn't been done here. I don't think that Kyle Dubis is playing hardball with Jake Gensel or anyone else there. I think he's just, addressing what the reality is. And the reality is that they need a renovation, if not higher than that.
Yeah, that's where it just feels like almost an oxymoron. Like, how can you commit to getting younger when you've got Sid, Gino, Letang, Carlson, Brian Rust, and Ricard Raquel both have 5 years left on their deals? Like, what are you going to do? Like, those guys.
Good luck trying to unload those guys with the 5 years.
Well, that's another thing, and they're both in their 30s. It's like, what do you? Riley Smith has got 2 years left, I think. He's 33. What are you going to do with these guys? And how do you? Yeah, you get younger around the perimeter, but the main pieces are those guys, and they're taking up a lot of money, and they got a lot of power, and they're not getting any younger, and realistically, probably not getting any better, right, based on their age.
No, you're bang on. Like Riley Smith's name has been out there, but you're pecking at the edges, right? And I don't know. I mean, I know Crosby wants to retire a Pittsburgh Penguin. We know that Evgeny Malkin, struggled coming off injury, and he's had the issues. The Letang conversations have been out there, less this year, more so in other years. I mean, if Kyle is going to do what's right by those players and by the Penguins, one of those guys wants to come to him and say, I feel like I got enough left. I want to chase it one more time. Of course he's going to be open to that conversation, but otherwise he's blocked, isn't he? Like, how do you go to Sid? How do you go to Malkin and say, I'm buying you out because, again, unless health dictates that and their bodies can't move forward, there's no way. I mean, it's a no-fly zone for me.
Dregs, do you think it's just following up on that?
Yeah.
Do you think he sits down with those guys and we'll call it the core four or whatever you would term them? You sit down with those guys and say, where are we at here? Where are you guys at? Where's your headspace at? Yeah. Because we are locked in with the group that we have right now from a contractual standpoint. Yeah. Any one of you guys want to chase it? Like, maybe one of them puts their hands up and it makes it a little bit easier and takes the pressure off and maybe begins that retool, rebuild, whatever you want to term it. Is you think maybe in the next couple of weeks that conversation could be bridged with a Letang or a Malkin? Obviously, Sid's not going anywhere, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But maybe
Sid's the guy you want, though. Like the other guys, like Sid's still a rock star at $8.7
I
million.
understand that, but do you go to Gino and say any interest?
Yeah, but he's got a couple years left at 7 point something, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You'd have to listen. You have to eat money. You'd have to be creative. Anybody can get traded. We talked about it. David Clarkson's contract.
This is very
got traded.
true.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to be creative, and it's more about, do you guys want to ride this out? Because I might have to blow this up, and it could be ugly, and you could be playing some really bad games in the next couple of years.
Wouldn't you think that conversation would have had to happen at the beginning of this year, regardless if he got Carlson or not? Everyone knew going in that this might not work. It might not be.
But he made some moves where you thought, okay, they're at least going to be. What did they miss the playoffs last year by 1 point?
Yeah, by like a point.
They lost the last game of the year to Chicago to get out.
Right.
Exactly. That's what gave Florida the chance. Gord was telling a crazy story. Chicago beats Pittsburgh. Florida makes the playoffs. Yeah. And because Chicago came in 30th, they won the lottery. They got Bedard. It was an unbelievable sequence that happened. But I still think these conversations, Kyle seems like a guy who is somebody who would sit down with their players, show them respect, and say, this is the plan moving forward here. If we're not going to get it done, it looks like we're not going to get it done. What do you want to do? Do you want to voluntarily put your hand up, or do you want to make me, push you off the cliff type of thing?
See, I think that's fair, and that's logical. I don't think that's happening between now and March 8th. If anything, I think that happens in the off season.
Yeah.
And how do you have those conversations, even though for sure Kyle Dubis is a highly respectful GM. He's not cutthroat. He'll make tough decisions, but he's not, taking down Evgeny Malkin or Sidney Crosby or Chris Letang without them being heavily influenced in their own process. But then you got to look back at Erik Karlsson, don't you? And go, we brought you in from San Jose because, we thought that, you were going to help us tip over the edge, and we're going to give it one more shot. Let's go. We're going for the Stanley Cup. And it didn't work. Now, maybe you have that conversation with him as part of that trade. I don't know, right? Where you say, if it doesn't work, just to be fully aware, we're going to have to, do something more significant, perhaps in the off season. There's no doubt that those conversations are going to happen in the off season if things go, not sideways, but continue to go the way that we expect that they're going to go in Pittsburgh. That just seems like part of the business, isn't it? It's hard because you're talking to Hall of Fame guys here, but you still have to make those calls.
Well, and I'm on the Penguins cap-friendly page. There's a couple things that stick out. One.
Oh, here we go.
Well, here we go. I mean.
Yeah, I was looking at it, same thing. I'm looking at the same thing you are.
Malkin, full no move. So Kyle can ask him whatever he wants. He can also say, Kyle, there's the door. See you later, pal.
Exactly.
Letang, full no move. Carlson, full no move. Yeah. So there's three guys. Again, Kyle came out today, Dubis in Pittsburgh, saying we got to get younger. He signed Lars Eller to a 2-year deal. Eller's 34 years old. He acquired Riley Smith. Smith is 32. He acquired Carlson. Carlson's 33. Kyle swung, and I know why he swung, but he swung and missed.
But that's the thing. You got to know you need to be younger before now.
Exactly. And
you don't bring in those four guys that you just mentioned that are 34 and then blurt out we got to get younger.
Okay, but you know why you do it, though?
Because I'm hanging on by a thread and I got to try to make one last gasp. But the problem is when okay, go ahead, Darren.
You've got a 7-year contract as a general manager.
Yeah.
And you're going to get past whatever these Hall of Fame contracts are. And he's going to do right by these guys. He is. And he's a crafty general manager. He will find his way. He's going to navigate look, trust me, they're going through growing pains in Pittsburgh, not just this year, but obviously in the years to come. I think Kyle looks at his contract and goes, okay, I'll weather this storm. We'll find a way. I'll do it right, and he'll do it respectful of all the players that we've already talked about.
Well, I missed a guy who's injured, and that's Nola Chari, who's 32. He gave him a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
There's one more guy he signed.
Yeah, like I'm not. I like Kyle. I think he's a smart guy. But that would be the question I'm asking if I'm the owner. It's like you say you want to get younger, but what about all these deals you just handed out to 30-something guys, 30-something-year-old guys?
That's why I keep coming back to it.
5 months after the fact.
No, but it didn't work, right? It didn't work. They were 1 point out of the playoffs last year. He tried to add depth to his organization, adding Achari, adding Riley Smith, adding Erik Karlsson, which
and Noodles,
on paper,
at the time,
again,
I liked it all. I was
we
like,
all did. We all did. But the thing is it hasn't worked. That's why I think you logically go, and I agree with you, Dregs. This is all going to happen in the summer. But maybe there's a chance that one of these players goes, you know what? I'd like to chase it if you can make it work on Team X right now. But if it doesn't, then you deal with it in the offseason. Excuse me. The players you talked about, Brian, they might have some value, like the Lars Eller or guys like that. There might be some teams that kick around the edges on players like that that need a fourth-line depth guy who's won before.
Yeah.
So he might be able to move guys like that out to get younger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be the question. I mean, that'll be interesting if he, the for sale sign goes up officially to an extent, and we know the bigger names aren't going to be a part of that. But you're right.
No,
there are some good players there. Or guys that are veterans that could add some depth anyway.
Yeah.
All right, Tregs. Good stuff. We'll see, man. We'll see where it goes.
Good. Yeah, we'll see. Have a good week.
Yep, you too. There's Darren Dreger, our TSN Hockey Insider.
I'll add the other one that Kyle's taken heat for is he signed that Ryan Graves to a 7-year deal.
Oh, man, that
at
ends
4.95 or something. He's a solid player, but he's more farther down. Like Graves, I think has been playing.
You say 7 years?
It was a 7-year at 4-something.
28-29 is when it ends.
What's the number on it?
4.5.
So 4.5, which isn't the most amount of money, but he's kind of like that stay-at-home, gritty, kind of in the McCabe type of, mold, like hard to play against, physical. But his numbers are, I see the analytics guys chew this guy up daily, right? Good. So yeah, it's not the best. Like that was a Dubis signing. Like he,
I mean, again, it's not just hammer on Kyle Day. It was a tough job anyway. When he got there, it was tough. Like it was very tough. He picked up Nedeljkovic. We saw last night. Not the best. Not the best.
No kidding. It's just,
it's a lot
if
of
that's
Kyle,
what he
though.
told the Fenway group, where it's like, look, I'll try to piece this together and add some veteran guys and bring in some depth here and try to make a splash and fix it. I'll give that a if that's what you guys want me to do, then I'll do it.
Well, there's a chance that's how he got the job, right?
No kidding. Somebody might have told him to do that.
Right. Like you're not coming in to rebuild. Like you got to come in and throw everything at the wall, and we'll deal with it in 2 or 3 years if we have to. And but also you can also look at it and say, okay, you had a lot of money or a fair amount of money. Why'd you spend it on those guys? Like that's something he's got to own. Every manager has to.
Not the best.
Right.
If you get to it, and like he turned over a fair amount of players. He brought in a number of guys here, like Smith, like Eller. Obviously, we mentioned Graves. He signed Achari. He brought in Nedeljkovic as their backup. Yeah. He acquired Karlsson. Like that's a lot of work. Like he brought in 5. He turned over the roster by a third or more.
Revamped a lot. And the other thing too which is a bit weird there, is the cemented status of the coach. Mike Sullivan there, like that. Mike Sullivan was in on the process. He's really tied. Listen, I know Sully. He's a great coach and a winner. All of that. But at some point too, that might be, you might be looking at that position and go, if we are going to change, Sully might go into management. Who knows? If he wants to stay a coach, then Kyle might have to fire him. Like, I don't know if that's, remember, I don't know if you correct me. Wasn't Mike Sullivan part of the process?
And on top of that, Noodles, Pierre was talking about this last week. He has a contract extension that I believe makes him one of the 3 or 4 highest paid coaches in the league that kicks in like after next season or something crazy.
What?
Like, yes, he's got an ironclad contract for years.
Take a break and put that on paper and show it to me because I don't believe it.
I will find that out. I'm telling you, that's the crazy thing is that I'm not sure he can fire him if he wanted to. Because, listen, Sullivan, you're right. Great coach. Those Cups, that's 7 years ago they won. That's a long time. Nick Nurse is in Philly. The Raptors won in 19. Sometimes things come and go. Anyway, all right. Well, I will confirm that. We'll come back with confirmation on that. I will. Daily, we announce a current or former Maple Leaf player every day, every week, right here on OverDrive. And on Friday, you have a chance to call in and name all 5 players in the Leaf lineup. Name all 5, you win a pair of tickets to a future Leaf game. This week, we're giving away tickets to see the Leafs play the Coyotes on February 29th. Plus, we're throwing in a $250 Vanilla Visa prepaid card. Vanilla Visa prepaid cards are available for purchase at Petro-Canada. Today's player of the day is Matthew Nyes. Matthew Nyes. I like it. Going with the young crew, the current crew. Matthew Nyes. All right, more of an explanation on Mike Sullivan and his contract in Pitt. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
It's the final countdown.
Another absolute banger. OverDrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. The Doogie desk is on it. Mike Sullivan, the current head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and wondering when his contract kicks in, how much it's for. Doogie, do you have that information for us? Can you supply us the Mike Sullivan contract extension info? You need one. Okay, we need 1 minute for Doogie because Doogie
is doing during the commercial break.
Well, he had it. He sent it to me, and then I think he clicked it away. It kicks in after this year. I know that definitively. Mike Sullivan kicks in a new 3-year extension after this year
at 5.5.
5.5 million.
That's correct. 3 years, 5.5, and he was extended on August 30th, 2022.
Okay, so he was extended before last season even started.
What was I love the guy, but what you had to get that?
I don't know. I mean, I guess with the GMs coming and going, let's be honest, the Hextall Burke era, it was not a great era in Pittsburgh. I think they were, the fans weren't overly happy.
Don't kid yourself. You think that those two? You think Berkey and Hexy gave him that extension?
Well, I think the ownership, wasn't there a transition with ownership, and the Fenway group came in, and he's obviously a well-respected guy, and but it is strange. Like, why would you sign a guy to an extension 2 years before it kicks in? And that's the thing. Like, the deal, like, you're going to fire him after this year? He's just going to get 3 years at 5.5.
Hey, all the power to him. The way coaches get
starts.
canned, I think, is ridiculous. Looking for the coach bump because the team is garbage and you've assembled the wrong team. So get some security. Mm-hmm. Good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm happy for him.
Not his fault, not his problem, but that could get ugly in Pitt, man. Like
that's what I mean. Like there would be multiple factors you have to deal with. Keep in mind, Kyle, kind of like Tree, they got on the job late. You're kind of going, all right, I got to get. And then, remember, Kyle was like, I'm interviewing general managers. And then when he gave himself the job or whatever, that's when the Spider-Man memes came out with the guys going, pointing at each other. Like that's, I mean.
Did he interview one guy? I
don't know. Was it known? Did anybody put up their hand and say, I got interviewed by Kyle?
I don't know. Like, did Jason Spezza say, can you interview me? Like, would he not be like, can I interview for the job? I would think. But what's that interview like if you know that Dubis is going to ultimately take the job? Like, would you allow Spezza, because they're very close, clearly, would you allow Spezza to even interview if in the back of your mind
would say you're under me? You're not. You're not calling the shots on player personnel.
Right. Well, which wouldn't happen anyway because he was the president of hockey operations.
And not to mention, you would know, like going into that meeting, guarantee you, like Kyle would know the intentions that Spezza has. They've been talking about it, as teammates, like saying, hey, how are we trying to get this organization better? What's Spezza going to say any different? Like, oh, I'm going to trade for this guy? Well, you didn't tell me that in my meeting, our meetings last week. Like it wouldn't be a fit. But I think you look at it, the organization, they came in. I guarantee you that the mantra was, you got to try and make this work, add to this team as it's currently built. That's what he did. And unfortunately, they're 9 points out.
Yeah, that's where you're at.
Yeah.
You guys want to hear Justin Fields, who was on a podcast, I believe earlier today or yesterday, explaining why he unfollowed the Bears and some of his teammates on Instagram. You guys want to hear the analogy that he decided to use?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Let's hear it.
What's with the unfollow with the Bears? What's up with that?
Man, bro, I'm glad we're talking about it because why do people take social media so serious? Like,
But like, why you unfollowing the Bears?
This and that. Like, I still mess with the Bears, this and that. I'm just trying to take a little break. I unfollow the Bears and the NFL, bro. I'm not just trying to have football on my timeline. Like, I know y'all mess with a girl, EQ, especially you. Just because you don't follow the girl on IG, don't mean you're not messing with them.
That's true. That's true.
You're saying you mess with the Bears more now that you unfollow them.
Man, it's not even like
okay.
It's something that I don't want to see in my timeline. I'm about to go on vacation. I don't want to see no football. And guess what?
Just get a little away for a little
Every
bit.
Bears post. It's either
Let's see who you follow.
it's either Keith
Let's see who
Fields,
follows.
Fields, to the draft Caleb. So it's like, bruh, man, I'm tired of hearing the talk.
All right. That's an interesting analogy. Just
And
because
No,
Just
it's all
mute him.
garbage. When
He's
you
lying.
when the
Yeah,
player
of course he
unfollows the team, it's the first
Of course he is. Of course he is.
stick of dynamite where
Right.
it's like, I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm out.
he knows. He knows. And again, if you're on vacation, then just don't go on Instagram. Or exactly, or mute, or go right past it when you see it. And I don't think the Chicago Bears Instagram account is tweeting out, should we keep Fields or go with Caleb Williams? Like, why would they do that? Like unfollow ESPN or the NFL
There's some
Network.
pundits. I know Dan Orlovsky, who was the quarterback kind of guru down at ESPN. He said he would keep Fields, man.
Yeah,
he would keep him.
Yeah, he's been the starter there for a couple of years. They don't win games. And, I don't think he can throw the ball down the field. But he's got talent. He was a first-round pick. They've developed him.
Like, won't the Steelers be calling for him?
Yeah, the belief is the Falcons might be calling on him, maybe the Steelers, maybe the Patriots. There's a number of teams because he's got
Dude,
talent.
if I'm
He's a
the
young
Steelers,
guy.
man, they got a kind of a good surrounding group there. Like, get Cabbage Fingers on the sidelines.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett's. I don't think Kenny's the answer.
I don't either, man.
Yeah.
Like, and it's a small sample size, but sometimes you see it once, you're like, that ain't it.
Yeah, and I think it's enough. Honestly, I do think it's enough. I'm with you. If I'm them, I'm looking for a different quarterback. They were playing like Mason Rudolph down the stretch.
Yeah.
The Steelers.
And you got to get a quality guy in there. Like,
Yeah.
you got Tomlin's not going anywhere, so get him a quality QB, and if you can't make it work with that, then gas him.
Right, and they still made the playoffs. Like even with that quarterback play, they still made the playoffs. Their defense is always stout. They've got some weapons there. They just need a quarterback. Maybe Fields is that guy.
But the thing about Fields, Hayes, why would, like, when you're an athlete at that profile and you do something like that on social media, something I'm not on and I don't care about, but you're going to get that question.
Of course.
Why
Of
are you
course.
acting surprised when you go on that
Yeah.
podcast or whatever that was and they ask you, like, oh, are you serious about that? You really thought that wasn't going to be brought up?
Mm-hmm. They all
Like,
exactly.
Just stay low key.
Yeah.
You did it on purpose, and you wanted the attention, and you wanted to let everyone know that you're done with Chicago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't act like there wasn't a method behind the madness.
What's crazy, what's mad is that this is considered madness. Who you follow on Instagram or whatever, but
Yeah.
it is factual.
That's-
You're the quarterback of the team. You've been the face of the team for 2 years now, and everyone knows what you're up to. And
That's the world we live in, though.
Yeah.
The other
Everybody
one is
tracks
changing the
everybody.
profile where it's like, I think Max Domi did it when he was on his way out of Montreal, that you used to say like Montreal Canadiens, and then he just took it off. Like, when you do that, people know
and
that
he was
you're
out.
gone.
He was leaving. They were
That's right.
trading him, and he knew it, or whatever. Or he wasn't going to sign there, or whatever it was.
Hey, I think thinking about it now, I think I would probably do the same. Where it'd be like, screw these guys, I'm out, so I'm not putting it on my thing.
Yeah. Maybe right before the arbitration case, you take Carolina out of the profile.
Exactly. You would have done that. I guarantee you back then, you would have been younger, trendy on social media.
I had
guarantee
to
you
get
would
in
have
my
done
car
something like
and
that.
do a phone interview with I think the News and Observer in Raleigh, and I think I told a guy, your first reaction out of arbitration is, I don't ever want to play for that organization again. But I think I was smart enough to say, off the record.
Is this off the record?
Yeah. Although I've been screwed by that one so many times, and I think I said, "Is this off the record?" I could care less if I ever play.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
the best is when the guy calls back. He's like, "By the way, that was off the record, right?" The journalist
Yeah,
is like,
exactly.
"No, it wasn't at all."
No, I've already printed it up, submitted my story.
Sorry about that, but that was not off the record. That was so on the record, it's scary.
Well, I got something for you guys. I laid eyes on something last night.
Mm-hmm.
Joe from the Bridge. Can you guys see this? Pull this up.
Okay.
because I may have sent this in the group chat.
Look at Gaber, man. He's tanned. He looks lovely.
He looks
calls
tall
his
and
goatee. He calls his goatee Leonard Chinnard, and I don't know why he sticks with that thing.
He is. On
It's
a
like
mission,
not
man.
the mustache part of the goatee, and he's always called that thing Leonard Chinnard.
It's awesome. You know what?
Gaber.
I had a chat with him after the game. He looks amazing.
He does,
And
but is there more hair? It looks like he got a hair transplant.
Well, he was mad because he goes, of course you had to take a bad angle, because he was talking to the guy next to him, so he was turning, and I just snapped a photo of the monitor because we had it on the back hall. And I sent it to him, and he laughed out loud. And I said, I'm going to put it up on OverDrive tomorrow and he goes, of course you are. You're going to make fun of me. But I will say this. He looks awesome. He's in great shape. He's thin. Like suit game was
That's
on point.
man.
Caber was a rock star last night. Had a good chat with him, and Roberto Luongo was awesome.
Awesome. Well, listen,
Yeah.
they're sniffing out a cup ring. I'm sure those guys are, right? Like they're thinking
I don't know.
that Florida team, as of right now, that's the hottest team in the league. Like right now, you go. I think they're gonna probably get past Boston. I'm not gonna bet. It's tough to bet against Boston. Like it's really tough to bet against Boston. But I would not be surprised if Florida ended up first in the East, and I wouldn't be shocked if they won the President's Trophy again.
Well, they're
They're
a good team.
2 points back at Vancouver. They got 2 games in hand. They won 6 in a row.
They're a good team, and you know what? They're trying. I think their next game is tomorrow in Carolina. Did you say they're trying to? They're trying to get an NHL league record for most road wins in a row. I think that's what they're.
Which is crazy because didn't LA do that earlier in the year? Didn't the Kings establish like the best?
I think Kings had most points in a row or something like that. I think this is just flat out wins.
I don't even think Florida need if Florida can. I don't think they need to go like stupid hunting at the deadline. Like
they didn't make a trade last year. Not one. Not one trade at the deadline.
Yeah,
not one.
Maybe you're going to have a defenseman go down in the playoff. They know what the injury thing is all about. So if they can just add some numbers of some quality character guys, but that team's good, man. They're good.
Dude, they beat up at Tampa 9-2 the other day.
Yeah, that was
fun.
Did you? We ran the quote by Coop. Coop had one of the funniest quotes. I don't know if you saw it after the game. He said for 26 seconds, the fans really enjoyed the game. It was in Tampa, and Tampa got the lead.
Yeah, it was
26 seconds in. And then he goes, then we were outplayed, outhit. Like he said, even the TV timeouts, they were better than us. Like he said something. It was a funny quote.
He wouldn't sugarcoat that one.
No, he was. It was an ugly. But Florida's a serious team. Like they play serious. That's the one thing. Like they play for keeps. And even talking to the guys before the game, the broadcasting crew, they said like they're in for a pound. Like they can play any type of way.
Yep.
They'll if it's a scrum, they're all in there.
Well,
punch in the face contest, that type of stuff.
And NHL.
That Matthew Tkachuk is back, man. Maybe better than ever. Which is that's what's terrifying is that he had a slow start. Statistically, a really really poor start. Yeah. And now I think he's had more points than anyone in the league the last 20 games.
Yeah, since January 18th, I think he's the first in the league in the most.
There was a tweet the other day, Matthew Tkachuk creeping into the heart, creeping on the outskirts.
Yeah, it's probably too far out, but McDavid got so much love for dragging Edmonton back in with 16 wins in a row. Look at what Florida's doing, and he's leading the charge on that. Like, he probably deserves that kind of love. And
dude, the guy's just you talk about, we tossed around the idea of a stud when we were talking about Slafkovsky. That Matthew Tkachuk is just a damn stud.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, him and his brother, they are both legit studs. They don't take a shift off. They work their ass off. They'll fight. They score. They hit. They're competitive. Like, I don't know what the hell else you could ask for. I really, really don't.
Yeah.
No,
well, I mean, they both play hard. They both come to play. But that Florida team, when you're talking about it, like they don't have any weakness in their positions, right?
No.
Like that, they started the season missing Montour and Ekblad for the first 16 games.
You know what they're like, Jamie, watching them play? It's like when Graham Dillette, you ever ask him about a golf course, and he'll say, you can't fake it around that. He talks about Riviera like that. He's like, you can't fake it around that. You're not going to fake it around the Florida Panthers and pull out 2 points. You're just not doing it.
No.
They will not allow you to fake it and beat them.
Yeah.
Which
They're
is
good
an
right now.
ultimate
Go look at their
compliment.
last 25 games. They don't give up anything.
No,
Everything's 4-2,
you will not
3-2,
fake it and
4-1,
take 2
4-1,
points off of
5-1.
them. With the ultimate compliment.
Yeah, it really is. All right, Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Taking care of business every day.
Yes. What goes around comes around. Taking care of business since 4 p.m. The thing of beauty, man.
Yeah, there's just people that hate our guts on Twitter. They're just some guy from BC who's like, you guys are a joke. Because I don't know why we got into that discussion. Like, everyone from a different Canadian market basically hates our guts. So
Yeah,
we
that's fine.
just deserve that beating we're taking.
That's fine. Hey, listen, you can't win them all. What are you going to do? You know, we come on here, we try to have a good time, and that's our motto.
He's watching us, though. There you go. See? Love us or
There you
hate
go.
us, you're watching us.
It's all that matters, right? We're just trying to take care of business. That's what we do. We take care of business. Yep. 3 hours a day taking care of business. And I think it's been a good one. You know, I think the business was taken care of today. So we're going to see all three of us, I guess, are in action tonight, right?
Yeah.
We're all going to a little event tonight, so we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, it should be a fun one. And then,
Be a blast.
we'll have a reaction tomorrow. We'll see if the Matthews gets 50.
Yes.
Be nice to talk about.
I feel like he is. I don't know. I mean, why would you bet against this guy right now? It's like minus 140 or something on FanDuel, and that feels like good value for him as an anytime goal scorer tonight. So, yeah, let's see if it's 50 tonight. History tonight. We'll have it all breaking down tomorrow. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in. TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
Slavkovsky, my guy, 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.